Hi, so I'm Dr. Griffin-Taylor, which is still a little weird. It's new. Um, but this is the video for chapter 1. Um, this is a new textbook, so I'm really excited. It's been chosen very wisely. This week we're going to cover the origins of the juvenile justice system, juvenile court jurisdiction. We're also going to define certain terms, delinquency and juvenile, and go over the language that is unique to the juvenile justice system. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the juvenile justice system, law enforcement and other referral sources, the court, dispositions. And then we're going to compare the juvenile justice system against the adult criminal justice system, because there are some marked differences that you do need to be aware of. First of all, to define the juvenile justice system, you have to understand that this is a system of agencies that is designed to handle juvenile offenders. Now, there's some history. We're going to go over that next week. But it's important to understand that society has made a deliberate attempt to differentiate the juvenile justice system from the adult system, because we want to avoid certain things. We don't want to call a juvenile an offender because we don't want to label them. Those of you who had criminology, labeling theory, that plays a part in why we use different terms as it relates to juveniles versus adults. Then we have this legal term, and you'll note that a lot of our legal terms are in Latin, and this is no different. Parens patriae. It is a legal doctrine that says that the state plays the role of the parent. And there is some different times when this can attach. You have, should a child become a ward of the state for whatever reason? Either the parents give up parental rights, the parental rights are terminated for whatever, parents pass away. Then the state bears the burden of becoming the parent. And then the term jurisdiction, and you guys should be familiar with this term. This is a 200 level course, so you guys are 2000 level course. So you guys have had some other criminal justice courses before. So this should be a refresher, but jurisdiction is the term that says that it's the authority granted by law to hear a case. Juveniles fall under juvenile court with some exceptions. In the state of Georgia, there are certain exceptions to that, such as we used to refer to them as the 7 deadly sins: murder, rape with murder, rape, armed robbery with a gun, not knife, not a strong arm robbery, not robbery with threats, but it had to be perpetrated with a handgun or gun of some type. And there were some others, but it's important to understand that those would get almost automatic pass to the adult court system. However, there were some restrictions if the juvenile was under the age of 13, meaning they could be 12 years old 364 days. The day before their 13th birthday, commit a crime that would be considered one of the 7 deadly sins, and it would still go to juvenile court because they were not 13 years of age. So it's important to understand those designations, those delineations. And then we have the term delinquency. Delinquency is any behavior that is prohibited by the juvenile law of a state. And that's any, what we would refer to in the adult system as a crime. Now, there are certain offenses called status offenses. Now, these are only a crime, or in this case, delinquent act, because of the age of the offender. Running away from home, runaway. Truancy, skipping school. Possession or ingestion of tobacco or alcohol. Curfew violations. These are all violations that are only violations because of the age of the offender. And if they were committed by an adult, they would not be considered a crime. Like, as an adult, you can't run away and be charged with a crime. incorrigibility or ungovernability, those are interchangeable terms. And that's just basically one not obeying one's parents or school authorities. You can attach it to that because of the parens patriae, state as a parent, legal doctrine. Sorry, my brain just forgot that word. Because while a child, because, compulsory school attendance until the age of 16, a child must attend school. You can't, there are some things that children can't do that adults can. If you're over the age of 21, you can purchase alcohol, you can purchase tobacco. If you're not, then you can't legally. So there are some different types of status offenders. So we've determined what a status offense is. Now we're going to talk about the different types of status offenders. The first is the CHINs, and these are children in need of supervision. It can be CHINS or CINS, just depends on the system. You have PINs, which is persons in need of supervision, juveniles in need of supervision for GINs, and MINs, which is minors in need of supervision. And just, I know these are definitions and they're dry, but they're really important to understand, especially as it relates to the juvenile court system. So a juvenile who falls within a specific age range and is subjected to the jurisdiction of the juvenile court is a juvenile by definition, according to this, to the juvenile court system, as well as this textbook. The criminal justice system is a system of agencies designed to manage adult offenders. Note, this does not include juvenile offenders. That is the juvenile justice system, not adults. And again, we want that distinct designation because we don't want juveniles lumped into the same boat, so to speak. And there is a maximum age for a juvenile court jurisdiction, and the most common maximum age is 17. That is not the case in every state. Certain states, you can be charged as an adult for a crime at age 16. As I've already noted, in the state of Georgia, you can be as young as 13 and be charged with a crime as an adult, but those are only certain specific crimes. And that's, that maximum age is the upper limit that a juvenile can be seen. Now, there is a minimum age as well. This is the lower age limit, and it usually sits between 6 to 10. I can tell you, in all my years of working in law enforcement, I never charged a 6-year-old. I have, however, charged a 10-year-old. And it was with a couple of felonies. It was an extreme case. And so, yes, you can charge a child as young as 6 with a crime. You cannot charge younger than that because it would be very, very difficult to articulate that a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old actually understood what they were doing, that it was a crime, and the consequences thereof. So we're going to kind of compare and contrast the different terms, the adult system terms versus the juvenile court systems. Adjudicated delinquent is a conviction in the adult system. Adjudication hearing is a hearing to determine whether there is evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. Again, this is the same standard as for adults. You don't get different standards. The Constitution still applies. Just because they're under the age of 18 doesn't mean they're not eligible for constitutional protections. And in the adult system, that would be called a trial. Aftercare is the supervision of a juvenile after release from an institution. It's called parole or probation, even under the adult system. Commitment is a decision by a juvenile court judge to send the adjudicated juvenile to an institution. In the adult system, that's sentenced to prison. A delinquent act is a behavior committed by a juvenile that would have been a crime if committed by an adult, and that is a crime for an adult. A delinquent is a juvenile who's been adjudicated of a delinquent act in juvenile court. In the adult system, they'd be called a criminal. Detention is the short-term secure confinement of a juvenile for the protection of the juvenile or for the protection of society. In the adult system, it's confinement to jail. A detention center is a facility designed for short-term secure confinement of a juvenile prior to court disposition or execution of a court order. Jail in adult system. A disposition is the sanction imposed on a juvenile who has been adjudicated as delinquent or as a status offender in juvenile court. In the adult system, it's a sentence. And the disposition hearing is a hearing held after a juvenile has been adjudicated. And for an adult, that's the sentencing hearing. An institution is a facility designed for long-term secure confinement of a juvenile after adjudication, also referred to as a training school. And it's prison for adults. Petition is the document that states the allegations against a juvenile and requests a juvenile court to adjudicate the juvenile. For the adults, it's an indictment. And taken into custody is the action on the part of a police officer to obtain custody of a juvenile accused of committing a delinquent act. For the adults, that's an arrest. So we don't arrest juveniles, we take them into custody. We don't send them to prison, we sentence them to an institution. In fact, we don't sentence them. Instead, we have a disposition. They have a disposition to send them to an institution. For an adult, that would be sentenced to prison. And again, it may seem almost inane to do this, but there are some important reasons why. We want to make sure that the juvenile understands this is not, you're not an adult offender. You're not a criminal. You are a delinquent who needs help, and we want to provide that help. So I'm going to end the video here, and there'll be a part 2 because YouTube only allows me to upload so much. So I'll catch you on the other side.